Treasure Trove podcast! Yay!
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Andy's Treasure Trove. It seems like only yesterday that my last episode was published, but it's been 6 months. Sorry about that. We started off with some thunder that I recorded in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago during a magnificent electrical storm here. Then I'm sure you recognize Pee Wee Herman from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, a favorite film of mine, exclaiming my name when a jealous giant named Andy starts chasing after him with a club made from a dinosaur bone. I'm sure you remember that scene. And you heard Becky Haycox, winner of the iPod contest a while back, squealing with delight about Andy's Treasure Trove. After Becky calmed down a little, I talked to her for a few minutes about her wonderful quilt making, and I'll share that short conversation with you in just a minute. After a brief chat with Becky, I'll be speaking with Lorenzo Barrar, a young jewelry maker and a naturalist who lives in the forest and whose specialty is mycology. And then to the main event, my conversation with Candace Roberts, a delightful cabaret singer and recording artist who stopped by Treasure Trove Productions recently to chat, sing, play the ukulele, and eat some chocolate. This episode is dedicated to Carol and Frank Debrick, two wonderful friends from Oregon who are going through an especially challenging time. My loving thoughts are with you both. And now let's talk to Becky Haycox, a crafty lady from Ventura, and another one of the human treasures in Andy's Treasure Trove.
I've been doing a lot of quilting and trying to apply new ideas and new materials to it. I made a quilt last year out of junk mail that I sewed together, and that actually won first place at a show down here in Ventura.
Cool.
And I've also been trying to do more science-based quilting art, so I sewed a cloth quilt out of various colors, and it was a chart that was a protein study of circadian rhythms in the human brain. And I sewed the quilting embroidery pattern was EEG of the brain at rest.
Uh-huh.
So I've been kind of geeking out on the nerdy end of crafting. I always give them away. I usually have someone specific in mind when I make a quilt. I like to visit them. I like to request that people send me pictures of them lying underneath them.
Uh-huh.
I gave one to Molly, who you know.
Yes.
And that one's about 7 years old, and it's really, and I also give lifetime repair warranties.
Gee.
So I've taken it with me, or I've come up there and I've repaired it on the spot, and it's so nice to see it get old. You know, it's just that's to me is the destiny of a quilt. It should be used and loved until it falls apart. It shouldn't be really hung on a wall or preserved.
If my listeners are curious, is there any place online that they can take a look at some of the things you've made?
Yes, my website is beckyhaycox.com. That's BECKYHAYCOX. And under the Arts tab, you can see the junk quilts and the science quilt, and there's a link to my other stuff. And there's also a blog there. And, they can find out more about me, and you're welcome to like me on Facebook or whatever the kids do. Whatever way validates myself in the current technological age.
Thanks again, Becky. Now let's talk with Lorenzo Barrar about the jewelry he makes as well as the jewels he finds in the forest. Well, here I am out in the woods with Lorenzo Barrar. It's unusual for me, but it's where you live.
Yeah, I've lived in the woods pretty much all my life. The thing about the woods that I like most is that there's just so many things to see and hear, and you can sit for hours just in one place, and you'll see hundreds of different animals and plants and mushrooms.
Well, I was lucky enough to go on a mushroom hunt with you once, and recently you went on a mushroom hunt with Jack, and you found a little teeny tiny, it's smaller than a penny, this little tiny mushroom, and I'm going to put a picture of it on my website for my listeners to see. But how do you spot something so small out there?
Well, a lot of it is luck. Sometimes you'll be looking for something else, and you'll go to pick it up, and right by your hand there will be a mushroom, or you'll take off your jacket and crawling on it will be some amazing caterpillar, or You'll be laying down and a bird will just poop on your shoe.
Can you tell anything in that example from that, or is it just a mark?
Usually just something that you want to take your shoe off and hop back home on one foot.
Well, this little mushroom that I've been talking about, what family is that from?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I think it's from the Marasmius family, which are really tiny. And yeah, they're really hard to spot because they're usually just little brown spots. Most people call them LBJs, which stands for little brown jobs, just because they're so small and so brown.
Mm-hmm. My listeners will see the picture of it. It has a little tiny thread-like stalk, and at the top it looks like a little pink parachute, but it's only about as wide as the capital letter B in a book. It's tiny, but full of detail and beautiful color.
Yeah, most mushrooms, even though they blend in so well, if you actually take a look at them, there's lots of really interesting details on them, just spots or how succulent the insides of them are, or what the veins look like, or there's a lot of things. And when you walk in the woods, if you just take the time to look at something like a mushroom or a plant or even something as small as a rock, you'll see a lot of different things that you'd never have seen if you just walked by it.
That's true in the desert too. A lot of people think there's nothing there, but you just have to look a little closer, and there's infinite levels of detail. I know that a lot of the mushrooms in the forest are poisonous, but many of them are delicious. And what are your favorite mushrooms to eat that you get in your backyard?
Well, I think my favorite mushroom is chanterelles, just because they're a little bit easier to spot, because they can be anywhere from bright orange to white, and most other mushrooms are just brown or whitish brown, just kind of a tan. So they're actually a pretty good beginner's mushroom, and they're pretty easy to clean. They taste really good. They're a really gourmet food, I think. I think my second favorite is Boletus family, which many of them are poisonous and can make you sick, but there's several types that are really tasty, and they're pretty big. They're maybe about the size of, the biggest one I found was, the top was the size of maybe a small dinner plate, and they kind of have a brownish top, and the underside of the top is kind of porous and looks a bit like a kind of whitish brown sponge, and their stalk is sort of bell-shaped, and that's really the one thing that makes that you can tell them apart from other Boletus. And they're also a really good beginner's mushroom because since they're so big, the cap usually isn't touching the ground or the leaves and won't get very dirty, and because they're so big, you can easily see them, whereas some other mushroom might be hiding under a leaf or next to a tree or something like that. And they're really tasty. They have a pretty strong flavor. If they're really small and they've just popped out of the ground, you can just slice them up and stir fry them. But usually what I do, since I usually find them when they're a little bit bigger, is just slice them maybe a quarter of an inch thick and dry them and then store them in a jar in a dark place and put them in stews and tomato sauce and things like that.
When I went mushroom hunting with you, we were looking for, or what we found most of, were, one of the names for it was death trumpet. And that's going to scare somebody who's thinking about eating something when it's called death trumpet.
Yeah, they're kind of misnamed. And other names for them are black chanterelles and black trumpets. They're probably the hardest to spot of the chanterelle family just because they're all black and they don't grow very far up from the ground, and they're sort of a trumpet shape, so what you have to look for is just a black hole in the ground. But they're really, really tasty, and I usually just saute them with a little bit of cream and some herbs and put them over pasta.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Now, another one that I know is around here that a lot of people eat are hedgehog mushrooms.
Yeah, those, at least where I live, are a little rarer. There's a couple spots that I have. They're pretty tasty. They're kind of distinguishing features that the underside or the gills are hundreds of little small spikes, which is why they're called hedgehog mushrooms, and they can actually get pretty big, bigger than other kinds of chanterelles, at least.
That's all very interesting. And now I want to start talking about your jewelry. So when you're not doing all the other outdoor things you do, something you do indoors is making jewelry. I'm looking now at a selection of it, and I've taken a few pictures that'll be on my website for listeners to take a look at. But it looks to me that most of the materials are different types of interesting glass and different colors of metal. Mostly what I see here are earrings. Besides earrings, what other kind of jewelry have you made?
I mostly make earrings, but maybe a quarter of the time I make bracelets and necklaces too. I think the reason I make so many earrings is because earrings are so much easier, and you can make something that's smaller but a lot more beautiful and intricate.
Well, a lot of these have colored glass, and I think you told me once before that some of the glass and maybe some of the other pieces that you use are very old.
Yeah, I use a lot of kind of antique jewelry. I go to thrift shops and things of that nature and buy old antique necklaces and things like that and disassemble them and then put them back together in something totally different. And I also add gems and carved stones, but yeah, a lot of it is actually just antique material.
And do you ever have any hesitation that maybe the necklace deserves to stay together versus be taken apart to make earrings, or are you always sure that what you're going to end up with is better than what you started out with?
Well, if I usually don't buy anything that I think is too beautiful to take apart.
Where are some of the places that you've been selling your jewelry?
Well, continuously I sell them at Roots, which is kind of a apothecary mixed with a gift shop in Point Arena, which is near Walla, California. And I have a small display there, but other times I've sold them at our local art center and the gallery of our local art center called the Dolphin Gallery, which is actually in Walla. But that's really only for Christmas shows and other holidays.
Do you see yourself taking any right turns and going off in a different direction, or are you pretty happy exploring the world of mostly earrings and antique materials and so forth?
Well, I actually started out tying flies for fishing, and then somebody gave me some jewelry material, and I just started experimenting with it with some of the feathers that I had, and then I kind of got interested in jewelry, and people started giving me more stuff, and yeah, I've kind of gone away from tying flies and more into jewelry.
I would imagine it would be a nice feeling to know that things you made are in other parts of the world being worn by people and admired by people, and they have a life of their own after they leave your workshop.
Well, I hope so. I have actually seen people wearing my jewelry around town, just only a couple times, but I've actually been pretty happy after seeing that, and after that I actually made like 20 more pairs of earrings and a necklace.
Yeah, so it is inspiring that people are using your stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is. If you're a painter and you see one of your paintings on somebody's wall, you feel pretty happy, or if you're a sculptor and you see one of your sculptures in some garden or somebody's house, or even if you're a plumber and you see somebody using the sink that you installed, you get pretty happy.
Thank you very much for talking to me, Lorenzo.
Thanks for having me on.
You can see photos of some of Lorenzo's jewelry, as well as a photo of the teeny tiny mushroom that we spoke about, on andystreasuretrove.com. And now to lead into my interview with Candace Roberts, I'll play you a little bit of her song, Somewhere Else, one of my favorite tracks from her new album, which was produced by Bonnie Hayes. That's one of my favorite tracks on the album, and it's one of the more serious ones. It's still witty, but this whole album, and let's talk about it as a whole, it's witty and funny, but it's also very poignant, and the themes of loss or disconnection or loneliness are there, despite the fact that it's very wry.
It was very parallel to what was going on in my life, I think, over the last 5 or 6 years, just working some stuff out, and also I think writing songs or just being perplexed by certain things in our culture and why things are the way they are, and just not getting it. It just doesn't make sense, and so kind of, I don't know, maybe just thinking about why we do the things we do, and
there's a lot of material there. My large staff did a certain amount of research before our meeting and found a couple reviews and some descriptions of your work. And I wonder how you feel being compared to Brenda Lee, for example.
I'll be very honest here. My music knowledge, what I listen to, is very limited. I'm sometimes I'm a person who gloms on to things that I like, but people talk about this artist and that and this genre of music, and it just goes over my head. I have I think my specific tastes, but some of my friends actually laugh at me because I'm someone who actually prefers silence a lot of the time.
Something else I read about you, that my staff found in their heroic research effort, was a little bit of background, going way back to childhood.
Okay.
And what it says here is that at the age of 8, that you made your theatrical debut in the highly coveted role of Virgin Mary in the 3rd grade nativity play. It was just the beginning of what proved to be a long tenure as resident, quote, goody two-shoes, unquote, including stints as Dorothy, Alice, and Little Red Riding Hood. So, I believe that. I'll take that at face value. What I'm interested in finding out is if you were or are a goody two-shoes. Was it typecasting?
I'm very trusting, very gullible. I'm often, friends love to pull a fast one on me. And that's the thing. Like, I was not trying to be a goody two-shoe in the sense of, like, the person that purposely goes out of their way to do something good. But it seems like the teachers always knew. It was like as if the teacher in the next grade, the teacher before that I had, told them. And it was like I was pegged and I was like the teacher's pet, and I used to get picked on for it. And I hated it. I mean, I used to cry and go home and, just ask if I could skip school sometimes. So it wasn't fun. It wasn't like I didn't want to be this. That was the thing.
Did you ever purposely misbehave or mess up on a test?
Well, this is the story that there was, again, Catholic school. My 5th or 6th grade year, there was this thing called the Spirit Award that, like, 3 or 4 kids every year got for being, like, exemplary students or just upstanding friends to everyone. And I seriously got it, like, every year in elementary school. And seriously, it would upset me so much being pegged into this that one of the last years I was at this school, I asked the teacher, the sister, if she would not give it to me. Just assuming, I just went up and knew I would get it at the end of the year, and I said, could you just not give it to me? And she was like kind of stunned. And then the award ceremony happened at the end of the school year, and they didn't announce my name, and the whole class turned around and like looked at me. Everybody was like, just couldn't believe it. And then the last day of school, I went to say bye to her, and she handed me a envelope, and she gave it to me anyways in an envelope. So I got the award anyways, but just not publicly.
Well, the way I thought that was going to turn out was that she said, well, I'm sorry, Candace, I wasn't intending on giving it to you. I
think it was a very awkward interaction, I think, for the both of us.
Well, I think you both probably learned something. I know I did.
What'd you learn?
I learned that my days as a nun were over. After that conversation with you, I went straight to the Mother Superior and initiated a sequence of events which ends up with us being here in this room today. So, again, just my staff did all this research, and I don't want to disregard it, because then they'll feel like what are they here for, except for the high wages and great benefits that I pay them. Then we talked about another favorite track of mine off the album called Handbag.
One morning I was in my kitchen with my housemate at the time, and we somehow had some trashy magazine in the house, which we don't often have. And we were like eating breakfast, and I was just kind of flipping through the magazine, and I opened up and there was this ad. This woman was fully naked. She's like size 0, a toothpick, but she's naked with her legs spread, wide open, and she has a handbag like covering her crotch and all the strategic parts and all that. And it just was like, I mean, granted, there are handbag ads everywhere, but there was something about that that just like hit me. It was like, okay, women are always selling beer with our bodies and we're selling sports cars, but it was like, wow, it's like we've really moved on to kind of selling primarily to women these, it's almost like, again, she's having sex with the handbag, and it came out of her, I don't know, there was just something that really hit me. Like I just started saying, it's just like the new currency is handbags. I think I said those words this morning. It was like I hadn't really woken up to it yet. I didn't because I don't pay attention. I always have a backpack, and so I really hadn't realized how significant they had become. And I think it was kind of the dawning to me of how significant handbags were. I was like, wow, like I said, she could have had a mug of beer in her, like between her legs, but now it was a handbag. So I just thought it was, my waking up to that, I guess.
And I think you mentioned Prada and Dior.
Louis Vuitton.
And you don't have any handbags like that, right?
No, and I don't want to be also some snob that's telling people not to own handbags, but I
No,
do.
no, no. What I was getting at was maybe I can go after those companies to sponsor the show.
Oh.
So of course we wouldn't want you to tell people they don't need those things.
Well, yeah, there's a mixed message in there for sure.
Well, let's listen now to the song Handbag.
Oh, please, won't you buy me a handbag? A handbag. Pretty please, won't you buy it today? Don't show me no love, I'll give you a shove into Prada to buy me a handbag. Did you hear that they emptied the treasury? All the gold was thrown into the sea. Handbags have become the new currency. Now let's get back to little old me. I want it, I need it, must have it now. I want it, I need it, must have it now. I'll trade you 10 pork bellies for my Louis Vuitton. I'll trade you 6 barrels of oil. I'll trade you my mother. I'll sleep with your brother as long as I got me a handbag. Are you worth your...
Yes, luxury at all costs. Even the most poor people like those symbols of wealth.
Oh yeah.
My audience can't see you and your sequins and the little clutch made out of what kind of fur is that?
Oh, only the most endangered.
And your voice is suddenly sounding different because you're having one of the fine chocolates that I give.
You've spoiled me with this chocolate. I'm going to eat the whole plate of it.
Well, it was a tiny plate. I ate half of it first, so
Okay.
it's all
I feel
yours.
better.
Well, if my listeners will recall, episode number 12 of Andy's Treasure Trove started off with music from your album, Honeymoon for One, and the song was BFG. What does that stand for?
It stands for Big Fat Garbage.
So this is a song that it's very operatic, and it's very classical, and it's symphonic sounding, and it's very dramatic. And then, like a lot of your songs, it has this funny little twist where the voice just entirely changes, and we go right into slapstick sounding kind of vaudeville. Take us through the evolution of the writing of that song and the arranging of it, and then we'll have a listen to it.
Basically, the chorus got written first. So the big fat garbage part, there's big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. And that came about really quickly. I was watching a piece of the Republican primaries where they're all getting together and talking about some issue, and I think it was all about terrorism and homeland security, and it just, I think I was just overcome and left the room, and it was just, I don't know, it was so much, the message of fear. It was pretty much driving that home from every candidate, and I just said something like, "Oh, it's just like garbage, like big fat garbage coming out of their mouths, like all of them." You know, I mean, it's just this. I mean, and again, the Democrats, I think, are just the same. I just happened to catch the Republican. I probably would have, the same thing to say if it was the Democratic primary as well. So I wrote that, and then I kept thinking about the idea of being betrayed by our political system, this idea of kind of the analogy of a scorned lover, like a lover that's been betrayed by somebody who promised her something.
I saw your picture in the paper. I saw your image on TV. You've lost your bright-eyed optimism. You've lost your dear integrity. You used to really listen, and you stuck to your own guns. You fought the good fight faithfully till you found out how it's done. I caught you to bed with big business, and I hear you bent over for special interests. How can I ever trust when you betray? You go and tell me one thing, and when I look the other way, there's big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. There's big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. There's big fat garbage coming out of your big fat garbage coming out of your big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. There's big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. So choose the less of two vast evils. Choose, but either way you lose. You prey upon our fears with your big promises. Just fight the war on terrorists, your new communists. 'Cause absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And it's never enough. I won't shut up and shop. Screw your puppet show. But maybe you should shop for a shiny new soul. 'Cause there's big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. There's big fat garbage coming out of your mouth. There's big fat garbage coming out of your big fat garbage coming out of your big fat garbage coming out of your mouth.
Next, we chatted about Chescalona, a song that I totally misunderstood until Candace explained it to me. It seems like the person in this song is just wild about her pet pig and all the different ways she loves to describe it in food terms.
Right.
So what's that? What's up with that?
It's not even about a pet pig. There's no actual live pig. How this song came about is that I have a niece, and her name is Francesca, and she's half Italian. Her father's Italian, and I started making up this little song one day on the beach for her. I like to make nicknames up. I I love nicknames for people, and so one of them, I mean, we call her everything. I mean, she should be Cheska, Frankie, all those things, but I started calling her Cescalona and singing it on the beach like it was this old Italian song, like Cescalona, and she hated it, but it just stuck, and that melody stuck in my head, and we loved to kind of ooh and all over her when she was a baby because of her Italian roots and her father's native Italian, like from Italy. You know, we'd love to talk about her prosciuttos, like her legs and her little, you know, all her body parts, talking about them as if she were a little pig, you know, like, you know, your prosciuttos, your pork chops, your, all of it. So there was that little kind of ham talk about her in a cutesy way. And then I thought, God, I'd love to write a song like extolling the virtues of a woman as if we were comparing her to a pig, because it's so, I mean, we're so fat phobic in this culture, and, you know, no one wants to be compared to a pig or being fat. And so I thought, I want to just turn it into like a love song to this kind of female that's kind of, you know, again, comparing her to a pig and her piggy virtues and all that.
And how you want to eat her up.
Totally.
Yeah, well,
Totally.
it made me hungry.
Okay. Right.
But I actually wouldn't have been surprised if you told me that you, yes, indeed, you had a little, or you used to have a little pig.
Pig.
Francesca, baby, I don't mean maybe. You're the perfect pink piggiest of a little lady crazy, alright. I wanna gobble you up tonight. Some call you Frankie, they're not so lanky. We're all a bunch of Francophiles, but not in the froggy sense, in the piggy sense. She's my heart's content. You're three little pigs rolled into one. I'm the big bad wolf, and I've come undone. You're so tender in all your pot-bellied splendor. Cescalona, my little Cesca, reigning runt in residence. Your panchedas heaven sent. Wilbur had nothing on you, Francaloni, darling Franca. Your baloney boasts the best. You're the cut above the rest. You're the perfect piggy of our dreams. Francesca, baby, you're my favorite swine. Your pork chops are tops. Your prosciutto's divine. Then there's Miss Piggy, she's rather twiggy compared to my succulent Piggly Wiggly, her pink complexion extols a pug.
We also talked about the album's producer, Bonnie Hayes.
I originally asked her to produce my record, and she said she wasn't certain because she felt like it wasn't her background, this type of stuff I was doing. She's more of a rock kind of rock slash country slash pop thing going on. Those are kind of the genres she worked within, and a lot of my songs, it seemed like it was kind of, they were coming from a lot of different directions, and there was kind of this overarching sort of cabaret theme, and she just didn't think that was her background, or she didn't have like a tool belt for that. And I said to her, nope, I want you, I said, if we don't know where to go at any given moment, we'll figure it out. You know, I just said, you're the person I trust, and I want you to produce the record. And she did, and I feel like, you know, she did a phenomenal job and really helped, you know, rein it all in and make all these kind of different sounds and songs work together. And that also brings up the man who mixed the record, Jim Dean, who became a good friend of mine, he, I think, did an amazing job just, again, unifying the sound at the end, because I think when he originally heard it too, it was like, okay, gosh, like how are all these sounds going to fit together into kind of one palette? And, you know, he really was patient in terms of like, okay, just turn that vocal up just one notch. Let's add that K at the end, you know, consonants at the end of words. We just want to bring that K up a little more, or that T, and he was so willing to do that. And in the end, I mean, I was so pleased. It sounds exactly how I envisioned it could sound.
Was there a conscious decision you made about what role humor and comedy was going to play in your music?
You know, it's a good question, because I originally, when I started writing songs, didn't really think anything was funny. Like, I didn't write with that goal at all.
Oops.
Yeah, I just thought to write songs about stuff that I thought were, you know, interesting. I'd hear something that somebody said and be like, wow, I like, that's an interesting concept, or some, you know, some, like I said, the handbag ad. But I didn't go about it with like, oh, this is going to be funny. And then I took classes, and people, it was like definitely like a workshop forum that I definitely workshopped a lot of these songs, and people responded and laughed. And I was actually quite surprised at first and didn't really realize that. And I think then it became clear that there was this theme, to me at least, for writing music where I liked the idea of using these saccharine sounds, these kind of very melodic sounds, these somewhat vintage sounds, but lots of harmony, lots of shimmering and reverb, just a lot of these saccharine-like sweet sounds, and then kind of juxtapose it with something else. Like, it sounds sweet, but it's saying something different. And that happened. I didn't realize I was doing that at first, and then I guess I just decided it was working on some level. But I think, to go back to what we were talking about before, about kind of looking at why we do the things that we do, I liked that idea of sort of pulling back the veneer. Again, everything is kind of sugar-coated, and there's that big smile in our culture, but then you kind of pull back the curtains and you really see what's going on. And I feel like sometimes I have a hard time writing straight, serious songs. There'll be songs I've brought to a class, or songs I've worked on with Bonnie, and I'm just trying to do something straight and serious, and I feel like it fails in a way. I feel like sometimes maybe it's more effective, for me at least, to say something that can sound sweet or sincere, but then the lyrics are kind of in contrast to that, or vice versa.
Yeah, sometimes the lyrics sound a little subversive compared to the genre, you know,
right.
the way the song begins, and we think, oh, it's going to be about this, and it is maybe, but then it's not the standard take. I guess
Right.
I guess you're taking some stereotypes and twisting them a little bit,
Right.
and in the direction of comedy or wit or humor.
Right. And that might go back to what we were also talking about the goody two-shoe thing. I think it was like being this maybe inherently good kid, but kind of hating it. So it's like this sort of getting branded as this like sweet child, but kind of feeling like it misrepresented me. Like there was something like, no, but you don't get it. Like this isn't me fully. You know, I don't want to be pegged in the little box as just the sweet kid or sweet thing, or yeah.
Well, you seem very sweet, so I'm not ready to let you give up on that identity. But I think for professional reasons, it's probably best to keep your options open. Yeah, the audience at home, you can't see this, but Candace is rocking in a rocking chair and gulping down all these chocolates on the plate. I can't believe she's eating every single one.
She's a pig! She's a pig!
Then I asked Candace to get out her ukulele and play something for us.
Maybe I could play a little of Layover Man.
Remind me about that song. Oh, I know. That's the one where, once again, he's done it again. He's fallen for a lesbian.
Exactly. It's about...
I guess that was a spoiler.
That was a spoiler. It's about a really good friend of mine, who you actually know, by the way. I don't know if I should reveal his name, though. Who falls for lesbians over and over. And basically in the course of me writing the song, like in the time period since that song has been written and he heard it, there's been about, 4 or 5 subsequent, examples of him falling for lesbians. It's like chronic. So he meets them and then he thinks he's like, oh, I met this person, and like he goes back, and then invariably in some conversation she'll bring up her girlfriend, or and he'll just be like, what? Like he just like there've been so many times where he was convinced, he's like, I met this woman and she seems amazing, blah blah blah. I mean, he's just like, this time he's like, this is good, da, 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 da. And then next time you see him, he's like, I couldn't believe it happened again. Like he just she's got that thing he likes. She marches in step with nobody in sight. She says, my friends in the band, they're playing out tonight. Meet me at 8, he's pretty sure it's a date. They paint the town, racing through the streets. He's in tip-top form, he's high on his speed. They get to the show, some drummer girl says hello. Now she's playing a song, his pseudo-D hums along. He looks to dream girl, he looks to drama girl, he looks again, are they more than just friends? Oh no, not this again. He's falling for a lesbian, oh no, not this again. He's falling for a lesbian. He got a call from his friend named Tess. Well, her girlfriend just left, she's in a bit of distress. They had a fling, way back when, and now she's single again. She says, come over at 10. Don't do it, man, although it feels so right. It's a dead-end street, you'll be wasting your time. Tess moves in for the kill, next thing a blur in her bed. Then it's over and done, and he's caught up in his head. Hey Tess, I love you, I shouldn't ask for more. Let's get married, Tess, she bolts out the door. No, not this again. He's falling for a lesbian. No, not this again. He's falling for a lesbian.
Well, I'm eagerly awaiting your next album, and I know my whole staff is. By the way, did you meet any of them as you came in?
No, I didn't.
They try to make themselves scarce when I have visitors, but I think I hear scurrying now.
They're hiding.
Candace, thank you so much for visiting Andy's Treasure Trove. I'm very appreciative that you took the time.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's about it for this episode. Thanks to all my guests, and of course to all my listeners as well, especially to my newest fans, Peter and Kathy Hart.
Hi Andy, this is Peter, and calling on behalf of my wife Kathy also, calling from Walton-on-Thames in England. You'd just like to say how much we've enjoyed your podcasts, and really looking forward with great anticipation for the next one. Okay, so keep them coming, Andy. Well done. Cheers.
And here are a couple of other messages from listeners.
Hi, I'm David. I'm calling from Fremont, and I'm just calling up to say that I'm heading back to Asia. I've got a job in Astana, Kazakhstan, the capital of Kazakhstan. Say hi, Uncle.
Hi, Uncle. It's me. Yes.
And here's my other phone, so I have to go. But we'll look forward to hearing more of Andy's podcast while we're in Kazakhstan.
Karen, Los Angeles. Hi, Andy, and happy holidays. That Orson Welles thing was the funniest thing I have ever heard in my life. It's totally priceless. Thank you for sharing. It's a great gift, and Happy New Year.
Now it's your turn to call this number and leave a comment about the show or about anything that interests you. Please call 415-508-4084 and let me know you're a listener. I really appreciate it. My next episode will feature a very interesting interview with author Sarah Schulman discussing 2 of her latest books. Please subscribe to Andy's Treasure Trove via iTunes so you don't miss it. So long until next time, please tell your friends about Andy's Treasure Trove. All rights reserved, Andy Moore and Treasure Trove Productions.